process model. Another model that Porter came up with, the business value chain. And then we are going to see how we extend value chains and how information system strategy fits into the company strategy. So first of all, the strategic business objectives. Each business should have 6 core strategic objectives. This is what each business should be striving to achieve. First of all, operational excellence. Becoming as efficient as possible. Reduce the cost of production as much as possible so that it will have the best processes, the most efficient processes, and it can compete well in the market. The second objective is to come up with new products, services, and business models, especially in certain industries like fashion, for example. Products are always changing, and products have a very short lifespan. In other industries like foodstuffs, products have a longer lifespan. But companies are always on the lookout to see whether they can put new products on the market, even in those industries where products have a long lifespan, because people might need additional products. People might want new products.
Hello?
People will get tired of always buying perhaps the same
Yeah,
things and
can you
eating the same things over
open
and over again.
TeamViewer
Now,
and
besides new
send me a
products and
picture
services,
of
we need to come up with new business models, new ways of making business.
the data that
The
you see?
pandemic over the
Because if
past
I
year
send
and a
you the
half has
picture,
forced many
the password,
businesses
that means you will
to
cut my
look
balls.
at online options. Perhaps they weren't thinking of going online, they
Sorry?
weren't planning to go online, but because of circumstances, they were forced to go
One
online.
second, one second.
The third objective is to
Are you
have
following
customer
us?
and supplier intimacy. The more we have good relationships with customers and suppliers, the better it is for us. We can achieve win-win situations by having intimate relations with customers and suppliers. I'll be talking about these points in a bit more detail. That's why I'm hurrying a bit. The fourth strategic objective is to improve decision making. We've already seen, I've mentioned a number of times, that decisions depend on having the right information. And in an organization, hundreds of decisions are taken every day. And
If you
not
send
all
me
the decisions taken are the right
if
decisions.
you open
In many
TeamViewer, I'll
cases,
change it
we
in two
take
seconds.
perhaps not the best decision.
Open
We
TeamViewer
take
and
the
send
wrong
me a
decision.
picture
Last
of
week,
what you see.
we
I'll
saw
log into the
about
computer. I'll change it.
um,
But
rationality, bounded and unbounded rationality.
So
So we do not always have access to all the options that we have. So the decisions that we take might not be the best decisions. It might be a good decision, but it could be that there was something that we could have picked, another option that we could have picked, which would have given us better
viewer.
results. So one of the
So
objectives
if you
for
click
the
start on the
organization
bottom
is to
right,
improve its
on the
decision
bottom left,
making.
and type team,
Obviously, it needs to try to gain
there
a
should be a
competitive
blue icon with the
advantage,
two arrows.
try to be better than its
Team viewer.
competitors within the market, within the industry. And
And
if
there
it
should be
cannot
on
have
the
that
first
competitive
remote control page.
advantage,
There
if it
should
cannot
be
be the top
a thing with your
company
ID and
within the
password.
industry, then it should at least strive for
You wanna
survival.
send me a picture of that and I'll log in?
So operational excellence will
Thank you
lead
so much. And
to
I'll log
higher
in right now.
profitability. If we get better efficiency, we will have higher profitability, because better efficiency is going to translate into lower costs and greater productivity. So those are going to make us make more money. Information systems can improve efficiency and productivity. And so we are lowering the cost of production, we are increasing production without having perhaps to buy additional machinery. So we are in a position to either bring our prices down because our costs have reduced. So that will make us more competitive in the market. It will make us more attractive than the products of our competitors. Right? Or, obviously, if we do not bring our prices down, we are going to profit because the costs that we are going to save in production are going to relate to higher productivity. The second objective, new product services and business models. Now, some products require information systems usage in their life cycle, in their development life cycle. Software, for example. We have to do software, we have to use information systems to create software, to develop software. In Malta, we have a company, Method Electronics, that they use a lot of information systems in the development of their products. They develop car sensors and switches for the auto industry. They work with major automobile producers abroad, and
So it's
they
the one
come
that
up
has
with
the
new
patient ID inside
sensors, new switches
the name?
for this industry. And information systems enables existing products to be modified and redesigned. For example, the use of computer-aided design for car manufacturers, for a lot of technical industries, and designers use CAD even in buildings nowadays. And if we come up with new ways of making business using technology, things like what Ryanair did. Ryanair started to infiltrate the airlines industry because they they created a completely new business model, selling airline tickets over the internet rather than having agencies and shops here and there, offices here and there to sell their tickets. And with information systems, we have created new business models. Online auctions, for example. Before, to participate in an auction, you had to participate in person. Nowadays, there are a lot of online auctions, and you can participate in auctions that are being carried out abroad. The third objective, customer and supplier intimacy. We know that it is much harder to get a new customer than to retain an existing customer. A lot of money is spent in order to obtain new customers. Now, obviously, every business would like to increase its customer base, to get more customers, to entice competitors' customers right, away and make them join the company. But to do that, it costs quite a lot. And if we start losing customers, if we start losing our customers, it's going to cost us a lot to replace them. So as far as possible, we try to retain our customer base. We try to have certain things like loyalty points. Airlines do it with airline miles. So that will make it difficult for customers to leave us. Now, besides offering incentives, obviously we have to give customers a good quality product and a good customer care service. Now we can use information systems to improve the relationship between ourselves, our customers, and our suppliers. On the customer side, we can use a customer relationship management system so that we can keep track of complaints and of the preferences of our customers. When we come up with a new product, if we categorize our customers, if we can group customers together by ages, for example, by type of customer, if we are going to come up with a new product, we can target a particular category of customer. If we know that our product is going to appeal to people within a particular age bracket, then we can put our efforts to target that age bracket with the new product. It doesn't mean that we will not sell it to other age brackets, but to initially try to infiltrate the market, we'll start off with the customer group that we feel is most likely to buy our new product. Even improving our relationship with suppliers. We can share stock control data with suppliers. We can share our order book with suppliers so that they will have an idea of what we might be ordering in the next couple of weeks, in the next month. And that makes it a win-win situation because suppliers will not have to plan their production blind in the dark. They will plan their production knowing what we would need. For us, it's beneficial because we will be guaranteed that our suppliers will have enough stocks to supply to us. And because if suppliers don't have enough stock to supply to us, we might be stuck. We might need to do a production run and find that we don't have enough components. So we either have to source those components from somewhere else, which might be more expensive because we might have to air freight things instead of getting things with in the usual delivery way. Right? So if we are assured that we're going to receive stocks in time for our production, then it is a boost, an advantage to us. I don't know whether you've heard of the term vendor managed inventory. In fact, it means that the vendor manages the customer's stocks. We don't have to worry about overstocking and understocking. We are leaving that to the vendor. Obviously, the vendor is going to charge us a bit extra for that service, but the vendor is going to win also by managing our inventory. It is advantageous to the vendor also to manage our inventory. Another objective, improved decision making.
A second, please. So back to the inventory control. So essentially, you have a supplier and a vendor.
And the supplier is the vendor.
Supplier is the vendor. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
He's selling to us, so he's the vendor.
Okay. And
Okay.
we, as buyers, what do we know then about the supplier?
As a buyer, now these vendor managed inventory agreements happen between large companies. All right. So, for example, Dell Computers, they have a supplier of hard drives, for example. Now, Dell, right, for them, it would be beneficial, it would be advantageous if they give the supplier, right, enough detail of what they are going to produce.
Okay. All right.
Month. All right. So in that way, they make sure that the supplier can supply them with enough components, enough hard drives for them to meet their production.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay. Look at it from the customer side. If you overstock, you might be getting some drives that are going to have an end of life. All right. So they might remain on your shelves, and you have to then get rid of them without using them. On the other hand, if you don't have enough hard drives to produce, it's going to play havoc with your production plans. Okay? Right. So, decision making.
Thank you.
Okay, again, decision making. We need to have the right information at the right time for the right people. And it's always very difficult to achieve that. And even with the right information, sometimes we do not take the right decisions anyway. Right? So one of the strategic objectives of an organization is to improve this decision making. The more decisions we get right, the better our profitability is going to be. Competitive advantage. Now, competitive advantage is the ability to do things better than your opponents, than your competitors. And there are a number of strategies that companies may follow to obtain a competitive advantage. One of them is to be a low-cost producer, charge less for your products, especially if we are churning out products that are continuously being used. Foodstuffs, cans of beans, for example. Right? If you can bring your prices down, then you have a higher chance of selling because most people want to find the most economic way to live. Now, obviously, as long as you keep the quality at the same level as your competitors. Another way is to respond quicker to customer needs. You identify a need in the market and you can cater for that need before your competitors. A new product, for example, an enhancement to one of your current products, perhaps getting something in a bigger package. Right? You are selling, let's say you're selling beverages. And normally people buy beverages in 500 CL cartons. Perhaps you identify that there is a need for smaller cartons, larger cartons. And if you are the first on the market, if you can beat your competitors to it, you might corner that market, and then it is going to be more difficult for your competitors to get into that market. I had mentioned, I think, that Mars of Wien were the first people with packed fruit juice. And it took the competitors about 3 months to catch up. But in those 3 months, the Safari became a household name. People weren't asking for fruit juice, people were asking for Safari. You have a better understanding of customer wishes. Customers might be complaining about deliveries, for example. You're delivering to customers. Right? Customers might want their deliveries to be sooner or later in the day. Again, when I was working at Mars of Wien, there were certain bars who used to tell us to do not deliver things at 8 in the morning. The bar was open till 1 o'clock in the morning at night, and the bar owner, obviously, at 8 o'clock, he's still in bed. So do your deliveries at different times. We deliver customized products and services. Now, nowadays, right, when we are where we are, when we are used to mass production, customizing seems to be a bit, hey, how can we achieve customization and mass production? But if an organization can mass produce, but then in the final stages of production, it can customize products to customer wishes, then obviously, right, customers are going to see the product that has been customized. They don't realize that 75% of the production was mass produced, but you have a different flavor, you have a different color, you have a different shape, perhaps, to the product that you are getting. Try to provide innovative and unique products. Try to be first on the market with something new. Right? Try to influence people. Nowadays, we see that there are these influencers, and companies sometimes employ these influencers to get people on board because they know that what they say or what they use is going to have an effect on their followers. Now, once a company gains competitive advantage, it has to maintain it. And the reason is simple. Because if you don't maintain your competitive advantage, if you stop, if you rest on your laurels, if you say, oh, I'm the top dog in my industry, okay, I'm not going to innovate, I'm not going to try to improve my relationships with customers, what's going to happen? You're going to stand still, but your competitors are going to move forward. They're going to catch up with you. They're going to overtake you. Right? So we need to make sure that we keep always in front of our customers, in front of our competitors. Now, not all companies can be the top companies in their industry. So if you can't be the top company, if you can't be the leader in your industry, at least try to survive. If you don't survive, then your company is going to close down. If a business does not invest in information systems, it cannot survive. There was a bank in Malta, I can mention it, Lombard Bank. It took them a very long time to come up with ATMs, for example. The customers could use HSBC or BOV ATMs, but they didn't have their own ATMs. Eventually, they then implemented their own ATMs. Online banking. Will a bank survive nowadays without having an online banking facility? But customers want that facility. And the business cannot afford to stand still because the environment is continuously changing. New competitors are coming in on the scene. We shall be seeing Porter's 5 forces. New products are coming in. New ways of working. Improved business processes. So a company has to keep on moving. A company cannot ever stand still. I'm going to give you an assignment. Right? I'll give you a couple of minutes to read through this and see whether there are any problems. Right, so basically, this is what I have just covered now, the strategic business objectives. And it's, again, I have given it a practical flavor. Alright, so your uncle, right, he runs a small printing press, and he would like you to write a report about how information systems can help him achieve the 6 strategic objectives. I'll give you about 5 minutes to read through this, and then I'll carry on. If you have any questions, just ask them.
I'm just looking for.
Sir, will we be able to refer to real life examples if we find any on the
Yes, sure.
website?
Yes, sure. Okay.
All right.
Try to see what would be, try to match the business objectives, right, to a printing press, a small printing press. All right, and try to see how information systems can enable your uncle, right, to be more efficient. Okay, you can take it that so far because he hasn't introduced computers to a large degree. He only has like office automation systems, like he uses Excel, he uses Word, email, things like that. All right, but he hasn't got any other applications like payroll, accounts, stock control. All right, so let's see how what you can recommend. There is on Moodle, right? There is a link already for you to upload your assignment. However, for the time being, the deadline is the end of this month. Don't let that discourage you because that is there for the full timers. All right? Because I gave this to the full timers about a week and a half ago. For you, I will be agreeing a new deadline, and then I will amend at the end of the month. I will amend the deadline, okay? The cutoff date, right? And on Moodle, there is also an article or a link to which gives a sample for informal report. Right? Now, the difference between a report and an essay is that in a report we have paragraph headings, introduction, for example, the main body, what is going to be, then recommendations at the end or conclusions at the end. In an essay, it's flowing from start to finish. But in a report, it's like a memo. I'm sure that you've all written memos, a long memo. All right, so have you can start it like you do with a memo from to the date and the subject, and then you're gonna have these paragraph heads. Are we clear about that? Anybody wants to ask something else? Okay.
Maybe one last question, not exactly related to the assignment question, to the assignment itself. We were already given a couple of assignments by other lecturers. Do we use, of course, I think we use the same template, right?
For a report, yes.
This is
But wait, are the assignments, because this assignment is not your summative assignment, it does not count towards your final mark. Okay? Now it could be that the other assignments that you have been given are what we call summative assignments. This is a formative assignment, a sort of homework. Right? This will not impact on your final mark. That assignment, it still needs to be, in fact, Friday we have a faculty meeting and we have to decide on the deadline for the January, for the assignment, for the main assignment this year. I know that in certain subjects you are going to be given 2 assignments, all right, that are summative assignments, but in this subject there is only going to be 1 summative assignment. Okay? So I think that when you said the template, because you might have been given a template for you to submit in your summative assignment. Is that right?
Yes. They gave us a template with the cover sheet, etc.
Okay, no, you don't need to do that. That will be there for the summative assignment. When I post the summative assignment on Moodle, I'll tell you about it. Okay, this is what we call a formative assignment. It is less formal. All right. This will be graded as excellent, very good, weak, fair, whatever. You will not be given a mark, and the mark will not count towards the final mark.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay? So don't think that this is the assignment for the final mark. All right? This is, I mean, it's still important that you try it out. Okay? And it's still going to be corrected, and you'll get a grade, and you'll get feedback on it. All right? But it doesn't count towards your final mark.
And when will be the date of that is due?
Okay, if we say, I'll give you a month from today, is that okay? Do you think you'll handle it with the other assignments that you have? You might get more assignments this coming month, so. But is a month from today acceptable? Achievable?
I think it is. The next ones are the 29th.
Pardon?
Yes, 29th, Alex.
Yeah, so
We
I think
have
it would be good.
another view on the 29th. I uploaded mine already, but I think I have to modify it a bit so that I can make it into a report, actually, now that we're discussing the format. But a month is fine, yeah.
You uploaded this one already?
Yes.
You worked on it already? That's good. Okay, but I'll be extending it. Right?
Okay.
How did you come on this, Gary? Because you saw it on Moodle?
Yes, I saw it on Moodle. I checked it too, and I checked just in case, and I saw it, and I just did.
Good. That's very good. Okay, because you did it before we had covered the theory for it, but it's good. Right? But it's not the end of the month. As I said, the end of the month is for the full timers because they had more notice. Right? I gave it to them about a week and a half ago. Okay, so if I say a month from today, I think that should be all right for the rest of you. Somewhere in mid-November.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. I leave the delivery date, the due date, end of October for the time being, because obviously the full-timers have to work to that. And then at the end of October, I'll extend it. Okay? So if I forget to do it, just remind me. All right? Okay, I'm going to carry on, unless there are more questions about this this assignment. Okay. Again, because we lost the first 20 minutes because of my problems here, I'm going to go through. I'm not going to give you a break or have a break, so I'll carry on. And then perhaps we can do another, it depends on where we are, we might do another 10 minutes at the end. Right. So, how can we use information systems to achieve competitive advantage? As we have seen, competitive advantage is where in any industry a company is the leader. It does better than the others. And we have some good examples here, Google, Facebook, and Apple. And these are all companies that have gained a competitive advantage. Now they gain a competitive advantage because either they have special resources or else they make more efficient use of resources. Special resources, they might employ the topmost people. They are ready to fork out very good salaries, but they take the creme de la creme. And they also make the best use of the resources. Right? Superior knowledge, for example. Right? And the result is that they have better revenue and better productivity than the other players in their market. Now, Porter had come up, now this Porter's model was not related to information systems as such. Porter's model was before information systems. Porter was looking at an industry as such, not as an industry with information systems. And Porter said that every company faces external threats and opportunities. Besides these external threats and opportunities, they also have direct competitors. So direct competitors would be an internal threat. They are already competing with the company. Besides that direct competitor, they have 4 external threats. New entrants into the market. Now, the more lucrative our market is, the more profitable our market is, the more people want to jump on the bandwagon. If we are in a market, if we are in an industry that is on a downward trend, fixed line telephony, for example, we're not going to find a lot of people keen on entering this market until we find people trying to get out of the market or to go into other industries to make up for lost revenue. Another force is substitute products. Sometimes there are products that can be substitutes for what we are doing. Now we have to be careful here. These are not products that are direct competitors. A good example is the camera business. Mobile phones, smartphones are substitutes for cameras. The main objective of a smartphone or a mobile phone is communication. But because of technology, because smartphone and mobile phone manufacturers have included cameras in their phones, then phones have become substitutes of cameras. Right? Canon, Nikon, whatever, they are not substituting each other. They are internal competitors. They are all competing for the same market, usually the professional photographer market. So substitute products are products whose main objective is something else, but they can be used to substitute our products. The other two forces are the bargaining powers of customers on one side and of suppliers on the other side. Now bear in mind that when we look at the bargaining power of customers and suppliers, our company is both a customer and a supplier. It is a customer of our suppliers, and it is a supplier to our customers. Now we are going to have a look at these 5 forces in a bit more detail, and we are going to see how the internet has affected these forces. Has the internet made these forces stronger? Has the internet made these forces weaker? So the first force, before I get to the first force, if you have a question, remember this, if you have a question in an exam about Porter's 5 forces model, or some other models where there is a diagram, draw the diagram. Now the diagram is useful in 2 ways. First of all, if the examiner sees a neatly drawn diagram which is accurate, the examiner is already placed in, he says, the student knows what he's talking about. So you already put the examiner on your side. You already created a big bonus with your examiner. Secondly, by having the diagram on your exam paper, it will help you. It will help you expand on your points. I have corrected papers where students forgot one of the forces. They wrote about 4 of them, but forgot all about the 5th one. And then when I spoke to them after the exam, was because of the rush of the exam, because of the panic in the exam, because of I forgot that I had to mention also substitutes. But if you draw the diagram, then that is already a help for you. Have I covered all of them? All right, so a suggestion. And if you have a question that is linked to a particular model, to a particular diagram, draw that diagram. It doesn't take, you don't need to do it in color, you don't need to do it alla Michelangelo, right? But draw the diagram. Right. Let's have a look at those 5 forces. Mela. The internal force, the one in the middle, traditional competitors. All companies share a market with their competitors, unless you are in a monopoly. And I think the only monopoly in Malta is ours nowadays. Right? Maltacom used to be a monopoly for fixed line, it no longer is. Right? And in a free market, you're not going to have monopolies. So you have to share a market with your competitors. Competitors are going to invent new, more efficient ways to produce. They are trying to bring their costs down. They are going to do continuous process improvement. They are going to do business process re-engineering exercises because they want to bring their costs down. They want to introduce new products and services. They want to be the first on the market with a new product, with a revised product. They want to attract customers by developing their brands. So we are competing against these people. Obviously, we want to do the same thing. We want to invent new, efficient ways. We want to introduce new products and services. We want to attract new customers. And that is why industry and competition has become so strong. Now, how does the internet affect traditional competitors? It widens the geographical market. Before we had the internet, our competitors were the competitors in Malta, in our geographical area. We were selling cameras and were the agents for Canon. Our competitors were the agents for Nikon, for Fuji, for whatever. Local agents. With the internet, that market, the geographical market, has expanded, has widened. Even though we sell Canon, customers may buy Canon cameras from anywhere in the world. So that competition has increased. And the internet has reduced the differences among competitors. So it makes it more difficult to sustain operational advantages. And it puts pressure to compete on price. If someone can get a product that I am selling far cheaper than what I am selling it at, I have to revise my prices. Otherwise, my sales are going to drop drastically. New market entrants. New companies are always entering the marketplace. Now, especially if that marketplace, if the industry is a very profitable industry. If we are making a lot of money, right? If people out there feel that there is profit to be made in a particular industry, they're going to try to take a piece of the pie. I remember, I don't know whether they are still in vogue, but do you remember there were parlors where you went in and you dipped your foot in a tank of water and fish come and eat the scales of your feet?
Yes, there was one in Portugal.
Pardon?
There was one in Portugal, I remember.
Yeah. Now, the first people who came up with this were friends of my nephew. And when he was mentioning it, I started laughing. I said, they're going to be out of business in a couple of months' time. You know, once this fad wears off, nobody is going to. Suddenly, these fish tank things mushroomed all over the place. You mentioned one in Portugal. I think there were about 6 or 7 at one point. Because they saw that this was catching on and everybody wanted to have a piece of the action. So they mushroomed. Again, the first, I remember the first pizza place, Pizza Hut, when Pizza Hut opened, they used to have queues around 3 corners, right, around the block. People wanting to go for a pizza. And suddenly, we started having pizza parlors all over the place. People who had a restaurant and that restaurant wasn't doing well converted it into a pizza place. Now, in certain industries, it is very easy to infiltrate that business. What we call there are low barriers to entry. Right? It isn't very difficult to jump the fence and get into that industry. However, for other industries, the barriers to entry are much higher. For example, the computer chip business. You need very high capital costs. You need a lot of expertise and specialized knowledge. So there are only a few companies who are in this industry because it is very, very difficult to try to infiltrate. Now, new companies will have advantages. They will have new equipment. Older companies might be doing their production using older equipment that is not so efficient. Newer equipment will be more efficient. It will produce more per hour. It will be more energy saving. Right? So a new company will have these advantages. It can produce more at a lower cost. It will have young, innovative, and cheap workforce. Normally, the people who have started it up will be young, energetic, full of new ideas, innovative. They will have a lot of motivation, obviously, because they want to infiltrate a market that has already been established. And they will be less bureaucratic. An older organization, let's take an organization like Parsons, for example. There are so many lines of communication, so many management levels, and that it is very bureaucratic. For decisions to be taken, it's going to take much longer than a startup company with 5 or 6 people running it. However, a new company will also have weaknesses. It may depend on outside financial help. It may not have the capital to start investing in equipment, in a factory, in office space. New plant and equipment is expensive. Obviously, they need to buy plant and equipment. They can't start manufacturing without having machines. They will have less experience and they will have little brand recognition. So they have an uphill struggle to try to infiltrate a market that already exists. Now, a good example of coming up with a new entrant. Right? When I was at Marsovin, they came up with the idea of Löwenbräu, of going into the beer business. Marsovin didn't have and don't have any beer products. Right? And Farsins was the major player in the industry. You could say that Farsins had a monopoly in beer at the time. I'm talking, this was in the 1990s. I'm talking about 30 years ago. And Marsovin wanted to infiltrate that market. And their target was to achieve 20% of the market in 5 years. They found it so difficult, and they made an agreement with Löwenbräu of Germany, and they set up a factory in Marsa where there is Lidl today. But they found it so difficult that after a few years, they had to close down. And because, first of all, one of the main reasons was the brand recognition that Jysk had. They found it very, very difficult to infiltrate the Jysk market. And so although it had newer equipment, and it didn't suffer from needing outside financial help, because Marsovin was financially very, very stable and very strong, and Löwenbräu as well. So they had all the capital that they needed. But they found it very difficult to infiltrate a market that had been established for so long. Now, the internet reduces barriers to entry. We've seen with Ryanair. Right? Ryanair, they don't need a sales force. They just needed a website. Right? They just needed access to a channel. And they started. So obviously, they needed to make agreements with the Maltese government and with the airport authorities so that they can start flying in and out of Malta. But they didn't need to have offices here. They didn't need to have travel agents selling their tickets here. Right? So one of those the barriers to entry were quite low. Substitute products, I've already mentioned, cameras and phones. Right? Substitutes customers might use, especially if your prices are becoming too high. And we have another example of substitute products. They are internet phone calls instead of traditional lines. Skype calls. They are free. You are paying for your internet connection, and you can use voice over IP calls anytime you like. If you want to use fixed line, traditional telephone lines, international calls are quite expensive. Now, the more substitute products there are, the less control you have over prices. The more your products can be substituted by something else, the more you lose control. The internet will enable new substitutes to emerge, not just as substitute products, but also new approaches to reaching the market. Selling software, for example, and downloading of software nowadays. So it's not the product that has been substituted, it's the way that we are reaching the market. Customer bargaining power. So a company needs to be able to attract and retain customers, because that's where its profitability is going to come from. That's where the profits come from. If we don't have customers, if we don't have sales, then we can't make a profit. Now, who has the power? Who wields the power? The customer or the supplier? In our case, ourselves or our customers? In most cases, it is the customer who has the bargaining power. Especially if we have few customers. The fewer customers we have, the more power they will have. At Doughty, we had 10 automobile companies. Losing one of them would have been losing, in average, 10% of the sales, 10% of the profits. So customers had a lot of clout. Customers had a lot of power. When Ford came over and said, we want to use electronic data interchange, unless you can tailor your systems to talk to our systems automatically, we are going to find another supplier of O-rings. Doughty could not afford that. So the customer had all the power. Doughty couldn't say, oh, we want to leave, we'll find someone else. Right? The power was with Ford, was with the customer. Now, we can have a bit of power over our customers if we make it difficult for the customer to switch to a competitor. Make it difficult in a way, for example, if we give customer loyalty points. So the customer has amassed a number of loyalty points. Suddenly he has come to our supermarket and he's had a bad experience. One of the cashiers perhaps shouted him or her down, and he decided, I'm no longer going to shop at the supermarket, I'm going to go to someone else. But he has lost the loyalty points that he has amassed if he just ups sticks and leaves. Right? Airlines with air miles. Again, if a customer is going to switch from an airline to another airline, he will probably lose the air miles that he had accumulated. So we try to make it difficult for customers to switch. Telecommunications companies, mobile phone companies, that's why they try to force you to, excuse me a minute, they try to force you to make a contract for a couple of years. Right? So that they tie you down for 2 years. They make it difficult for you to switch to a competitor. You either have to wait for the 2 years to be up to switch to a competitor, or you're going to be penalized. Nowadays, customers have more knowledge. So it is much easier for them to switch from one supplier to another, to switch to our competitor. And the internet, right, has made the customer's bargaining power much stronger. Now, this is in most cases, right? In most cases, the customer has a strong bargaining power. With the internet, the customer has knowledge of global prices and more product information. So this has increased the bargaining power to customers. If the customer knows about our products nearly as much as we do, and we'll be talking about this when we cover e-commerce, then the customer has more power. If there is something about our products that we know but customers don't know, then we have a slight power over our customers. Now, on the other hand, supplier bargaining power. As I said, remember that in the eyes of our suppliers, we are customers. So if, as a general rule, customers have more power, then we have more power when we bargain with our suppliers. So if our supplier says, look, I'm going to increase the price of the raw material, of the components, then we might say, look, we're going to shop around and see if there is someone else who can give us the same quality products at cheaper prices. So we have that negotiating power over our supplier. Well, unless you give us the same prices as your competitor, then we are going to switch to a competitor. We can also bargain on delivery schedules, for example. I need the components fast, so you have to give me a better delivery date. Now, although we as customers in general will have more power with suppliers, there are certain situations where the supplier will have the bargaining power himself. let's say that we are importing cars from Peugeot. And Peugeot say we're going to put prices up. We don't have the power to say, you're going to put prices up, then we're not going to buy your cars. We're going to get cars from somewhere else. Because we are stuck. Right? If we get cars from another Peugeot reseller, we are going to have to pay probably more than Peugeot would charge us for it. If we're not going to buy any Peugeot cars, but we're going to import a different car, a different brand, what brands can we import? Most of the popular brands are already represented in Malta. So what other brands can we get? Are we going to get a brand that nobody has heard about? Somewhere perhaps a car made in China, made in North Korea. It's going to be very, very difficult for us to infiltrate the market with that. So our supplier, Peugeot, has the bargaining power in this case. So remember, in most cases, it's the customer who has the bargaining power. But in certain cases, it's the supplier. Let's say that we are Peugeot ourselves, right? And our customers are the Peugeot agents in Malta. We have the power, not our customer. Now, what is the impact of the internet? Procurement over the internet tends to raise bargaining power over suppliers. So again, we as customers will have more power over our suppliers. But bear in mind that in the same way, our customers have more power than us. Now this is just a summary of the impact of the internet on those forces. I'm not going to read through this, so it's a summary of what I've been saying, and it's a summary of what you have at the end of each slide there. Now, obviously, businesses come up with certain strategies to deal with these competitive forces. And these are the four main strategies. There are other strategies, but these are the main ones. First of all, become a low-cost producer. Reduce your costs as much as possible. Right? Be as efficient as you can, be as efficient as possible, so that your cost of operation is less than the cost of operation of your competitors. Because by reducing your cost of operation, you can become a low-cost producer. A very good example of a low-cost producer is Walmart in America. Walmart is a huge supermarket chain in America, and they pride themselves in having the cheapest goods. In fact, they tell you that if you find an item cheaper somewhere else, right, they will give it to you for free. Now, they manage to be a low-cost producer because they have a very good, a very efficient inventory system, an ERP system, a stock control, an inventory management system. And they are always developing and improving their inventory management system. Because by having a very good inventory management system, they bring the costs of the products that they resell down. They can buy in bulk, they can buy in huge amounts, so they get massive discounts from their own suppliers, and then they can pass those discounts or the bulk of those discounts to their customers. Second strategy is to differentiate your products. Make sure that your products are different from somebody else. So it could be either quality, for example. If you have higher quality products, people might be ready to pay a bit more for a better product, for a higher quality product. Examples there are Google Maps. Dell offers customized PCs. So that is something which is differentiating them from other PC manufacturers. You can tailor-make your PC. You can customize your PC. Another way, another strategy is to change the scope of competition. Go global or focus on a niche market. Go global. Try to widen your customer base geographically, use e-commerce, or else focus on a niche market. A niche market is part of the market that has its own characteristics, and it's not well served by the major players in the market because their requirements would be minor. The requirements would be limited, right, in number, and the huge players in the market might not want to spend time to try to pander to these special customers, to these niche customers. So you may try to attack this niche market. Instead of being a small fish in a big pond, you are a big fish in a small pond. As an example, I can mention the publishers of large print books. Right? The market for large print books is very small compared to the market for books, normal books. So the major publishers do not really care about the small business, the large print books business, which is minor. It's not worth their time investing in doing short runs to cater for this market. But then there are other companies, right, who are like Thorndike, for example, right, who specialize in large print books. These are books for people who have problems with eyesight. So they find it very difficult to read smaller fonts. Right? So they purchase books, they look for books that have larger prints, larger fonts. The fourth strategy is to strengthen customer and supplier intimacy. Again, this is one of the major business objectives, one of the main business objectives, but it can be used also as a strategy in order to make more profits than your competitors. And if you strengthen customer and supplier intimacy, you can reduce your costs. You might not be a low-cost producer. You might not want to be a low-cost producer. Right? You still have a very good market. You don't need to put your prices down. But by strengthening customer and supplier intimacy, you are going to increase your profitability. Now, how do information systems enable and enhance these strategies? For low-cost producers, right, we increase efficiency and we lower internal costs. We explore alternative revenue streams. For example, Ryanair, they bring their costs down because they don't have brick and mortar shops, and they increase their revenue by having advertising on their site, by earning commission from selling bed nights, insurance, car hire, and things like that. So the revenue is not totally from selling flights. Probably most of the revenue comes from commissions from reselling other things that are linked to flights. If you are going to book a flight, you need to book a hotel. You may need to book car hire. You need insurance. So Ryanair make it easier for people who are using their site. When they have finished booking their flights, right, they start prodding you. You want a hotel? You want insurance? Because for them, that is additional revenue. Product differentiation. You can use information systems to create new unique products and services. ATMs, the banks. Banks, the first bank that came out with an ATM, NatWest in England, started enticing customers away from the other banks. Okay, the other banks soon followed suit with ATMs, but being the first gave NatWest an advantage. Change of scope, focusing on a niche. Right? Identify a specific target market. Is there part of my customer base that is not well serviced by my competitors? Can I use that niche in order to try to increase my profitability? Right, so if I can serve it better than competitors, I am going to make profitability, greater profitability in that part of the market. And with information systems, we can analyze customer buying patterns. We can categorize customers together by type of customer, for example, by age group, by locality, by spending power, perhaps. And by analyzing customers and having more information about customers, we can take advantage of it to be more efficient in our advertising. If we are going to come up with a marketing campaign, and for example, we know that sales in a particular product are down in a particular customer category, there is no point in offering discounts and going on a promotional campaign, a marketing campaign for all our customers, because customers who are buying our products satisfactorily in a way that is meeting expectations, is meeting our forecasts. We don't need to motivate them to buy. We're happy. But if there is a customer category, a category that is not reaching targets, then we need to motivate just that category. So we can make our advertising more efficient. Right? Obviously, there will be a marketing budget, and we can utilize that budget in a better way because we are targeting a particular category of customer, not our whole customer base. With information systems, we can identify the most profitable clients. Sometimes the clients with the highest turnover, with the highest purchases, are not our most profitable clients. Usually these clients, those clients who buy in bulk with us, get a very high discount. So that eats into our profitability. Sometimes these customers want preferential repayment terms. Rather than paying on 30 days credit, they want 90 days credit, for example. But again, that is going to cost us money, right? Because we're perhaps paying interest on a bank overdraft. And if we get our invoices paid in a longer period of time, that is going to create problems in our cash flow. If we understand customer needs and win more of their business, then we are going to increase our profitability. And through information systems, we can identify these most profitable clients. As I said, it doesn't mean that if a client is buying the most out of our customer group, he is the most profitable client. He may not be the most profitable one. Customer and supplier intimacy, we can exploit supply chain management. Supply chain management is the whole picture from start of the creation of the raw materials through to the production by our organization, down to the delivery and selling of the final products to the end consumer. And supply chain management is the whole process from start to finish. Now, with supply chain management, if we link the value chains of suppliers to our value chain, then we are going to improve that intimacy. We'll be talking about the value chain in a couple of minutes' time. If we link our value chain to the customer's value chain, then we can create an efficient customer response system. So we reduce inventory costs. If we know what our customers are going to order, we can produce enough to meet these orders. We can respond rapidly to customer demands. We have continuous inventory replenishment. We don't overstock, we don't understock, but we keep the right amount of stock continuously. Sometimes that is known as stockless inventory. Whatever comes in is going out immediately. Again, this is a matrix with those 4 competitive strategies with some examples there of who has used those strategies to good effect. Now, before we get to the value chain, we're going to have a look at the Internet's impact on competitive advantage. The Internet has destroyed some industries and has severely threatened others. For example, the printed encyclopedia industry. When I was a young boy, many years ago, we didn't have the Internet, we didn't have access to the knowledge base that is the Internet. And my parents bought us an encyclopedia, a printed encyclopedia, about 20 volumes. Now, by the time that we had bought that encyclopedia and it was available to us at home, that encyclopedia was already out of date. Because especially in things like science and technology, things change very rapidly. So nowadays, there is no market for a printed encyclopedia. I was going to buy a printed encyclopedia knowing that at the time that it left the printing press, it was already out of date. So the Internet has destroyed the printed encyclopedia business. The main player in the printed encyclopedia business was the Encyclopedia Britannica. They haven't gone out of business because they have an online version of the encyclopedia. Now, parts of it are free. Right, so people can do research and can go into the Encyclopedia Britannica website. But then for further research, for scholars, for example, and researchers, you need to pay a subscription. Obviously, they need to make a profit because they no longer make a profit out of the printed encyclopedia. The Internet has created entirely new markets, and it has formed the basis for other new businesses. For example, eBay. eBay, the online auction site, the first or the most popular online auction site, wouldn't be possible without the Internet. We have a whole chapter about the Internet, that's topic 6. And we're going to see that there were 2 waves of the Internet. The first wave of e-commerce touched books, music, and their travel, and then the second wave touched other services, phone services, movies, etc. Now, because of the Internet, the traditional forces are still at work. Porter's 5 forces are still at work, and we've seen how the Internet has affected them. And in general, competitive rivalry has become much more intense. The Internet has created more problems for organizations. It has made competition much more fierce for all organizations. Any questions so far? Okay, when I spoke about the supply chain management, I mentioned the term the business value chain. I said we'll be talking about it in a couple of minutes' time, so here it is. What is a value chain? What is value added? Let's take an example, the car manufacturing industry. If you buy a car, the cost of that car is going to be much higher than the sum of the individual costs of its components. If you order just the components and they get you a box full of components and plonk it down in your garage and you build it up yourself, it will be much cheaper than buying the assembled car. Obviously, there will be huge doubts whether it will work or not, right, depending on your mechanical skills. But when you are buying a completely assembled car, obviously you are paying for the value added. Right? The difference between the value of the components and the value of the assembled car. And the value added is the usage, the resources that are needed, could be manual resources, could be electricity, could be factory maintenance, right? A lot of overheads, and the profit element of the car manufacturer. The car manufacturer is not going to do that for fun, right? He needs to make a profit out of it. Now, we'll have a look at the value chain, which is on the next slide. And I would like you to highlight specific activities in the value chain where you think information systems can be implemented to obtain a competitive advantage. Now remember that a competitive advantage is gained by giving more value than your competitors or giving the same value at a lower price. So this is the value chain. And I just explain what those activities are. Tuesday evening is always a problem for me because I would have had about 5 hours lecturing in the morning and my voice then starts croaking at the end. Now this is another model that was given to us by Michael Porter, the guy who gave us the 5 forces model. And he came up with a concept and he said that in any industry, a company will have primary activities and support activities. Now the primary activities, we also call them the core activities, are those activities that relate to the objective of that company. Right? What is the company there for? What is the company doing? What is the company's main product? Why does the company exist? So those activities that relate to the existence of the company, to why the company exists, are the core activities or the primary activities. And there are 5 primary activities. First of all, inbound logistics. Inbound logistics is getting the raw materials and the components that you need to create your product. The second activity is operations. Getting those components, those raw materials, plugging them together, creating a product. The third activity is outbound logistics. What do we do with the finished goods until we find a sale for them, until they are sold? So we need to warehouse them, or we need to park them at an agent, at a wholesaler. The fifth activity is marketing and sales. There is no point in producing products unless we make people aware of those products. So we need to market them. Once we make people aware of those products, hopefully there will be a request for those products and we will start selling those products. The fifth primary activity then is after sales service. Now this activity is more pronounced in certain industries than others. For example, cars, televisions, air conditioners, fridges, white goods, whatever. Now these activities need to be supported by secondary activities. On their own, they will not make a profitability for the company. The company cannot thrive on these primary activities only. It needs the secondary activities as well. First of all, the firm infrastructure, the factories, the offices, our accounting systems, our buildings. Right? That's the firm infrastructure. What is needed for the primary activities to work. Secondly, human resource management. In our primary activities, even if we automate to a large extent, our industry, for example, is full of robotics, but we still need people to control. So we still need to manage our human resources. Another support activity, here it is listed as technology development. I prefer to call it research and development. What new products can we come up with? Research, what does the market want? What enhancements to our current products does the market want? Do customers need? So research and development will come up with our new products and services. The fourth support activity is procurement. Now here be careful because procurement and inbound logistics are both activities that are linked to buying. They are both procurement activities. However, the difference is that with inbound logistics, we are procuring things that are going to be used directly in our operations, raw materials, components. With procurement, we are buying things that are not used directly in our core activities. We are buying audit services, for example. We are buying consultancy services. We are buying stationery. We are buying furniture for office use. Okay, so that falls under procurement. It doesn't fall under inbound logistics. Now, where do you think information systems can help make our activities more efficient? Would they be more important in primary activities or more important in support activities? What do you think?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay. Where do you think information systems can be more important to enable us to be more efficient in our primary activities or in our secondary activities?
I think it depends. It certainly helps with marketing and sales. Service as well. Logistics help as well. So I guess mainly primary.
Mainly primary, yes. Okay, carry on.
But if we're discussing technology, so research and development, it might be useful there as well.
I mean, information systems are important everywhere, in all of the activities. However, as Gary said, yes, Carmen?
I think in both the information system helps.
Yes. In both type of activities, it helps. But it gives us more profitability and efficiency savings in our primary activities. Because that is where most of the processes are carried out, right? Especially operations, inbound and outbound logistics. And if we can automate those activities as much as possible, if we can, sometimes most of our staff anyway work in those activities. So if we can make the greater efficiencies there, if we can improve efficiencies there, they are going to give us greater benefits. It doesn't mean that we disregard the secondary activities, far from it. As Carmel said, information systems are important everywhere. But the main areas where information systems can give us competitive advantage are in the primary activities. For example, let's mention human resource management. One of the systems that is used in human resources management is a personnel system. Now, a personnel system doesn't give us a competitive advantage. If we have a better personnel system than our competitors, it's more advantageous for us because we are more efficient in human resource management. However, it will not give us a competitive advantage over that other company. If we are using computer-assisted manufacturing in operations, and our competitor is not using information systems for operations, then we can gain a huge competitive advantage. You get that, Carl? You agree?
I get it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I heard you. So yes, it is important that we get information systems in both types of activities, but they can give us a competitive advantage more if we use them in the primary activities. Now, other areas where we can use information systems, because here we are looking at activities as though they are in isolation. But remember that there are a lot of linkages between those activities. Operations cannot work without inbound logistics. If we don't get our components, we can't produce. Marketing cannot work without operations. And so there is a lot of linkage between those activities. There are also linkages between support and primary activities. For example, research and development. that links very closely to operations. So again, if we can automate, if we can introduce information systems in these linkages, and we can make these linkages more efficient, then we are going to gain. Linking research and development to operations, for example, we use computer-aided design in research and development, and we use computer-assisted manufacturing in operations. We can get the machines in operations to talk directly to the designs in CAD without having to re-input any commands. Okay, so we have improved that, we have made that more efficient. Now, besides the linkages internally within the organization, remember that the organization is not in isolation. The organization is not an island. It has suppliers at one end and it has customers at the other end. And if we can, again, improve the linkages with our suppliers and our customers, then we are gaining efficiencies and we can gain competitive advantage. So there are three ways in which we can gain competitive advantage: by automating the activities themselves, improving the linkages between internal activities, and
it's me
improving
tomorrow.
our external linkages.
Me.
Okay, so basically this is what
It's me tomorrow morning opening.
this slide is saying. We can, if you look at the last point, we can also enhance effectiveness and efficiency through information systems in the value system, also known as the value stream. Now, what is the value system or the value stream?
Sorry.
Consider our
Have
firm
an easy night.
to be here.
Thank you.
Right? This is our value chain. Now, obviously, we have suppliers, and our suppliers have their own value chains. And this is what we call the upstream value. At the other end, we have our channels, wholesalers, retailers, and then the end buyers. And these organizations here also have their value chains. So, and we call this the downstream value. So it's like we are in the middle of a stream here. Water is flowing down that way. So this is upstream. Water is flowing to us. We are adding value, and then that water is going to flow out downstream to other organizations. And there are linkages between us and our suppliers and us and our customers. And those are the linkages, and they create interdependencies between our value chain and the value chains of our customers and suppliers. And we can obtain competitive advantage by optimizing these linkages. I had mentioned vendor managed inventory at the start. So vendor managed inventory is a strategy or a way where we optimize the linkage between ourselves and our supplier. These are some examples of value streams. A syrup producer, it goes to the bottler, the distributor sells to the merchant, the supermarket, and it goes to the end consumer. Retail, manufacturer, warehouse, where the products are stored, the carrier takes them to the wholesaler, again the wholesaler sells to the retailer, and the retailer sells to the customer. So we have seen that by enhancing the linkage between ourselves and our customers and suppliers, we can gain competitive advantage. And that is by looking at the value chain. We can extend the value chain much further, right? By having a value add. So we can achieve greater benefits now by cooperating not just with suppliers and customers, but also with other partners. Our insurance companies, for example, right? Our haulers, truckage companies, our shipping companies. We may not always use the same shipping company, we may not always use the same insurance company. right? Because we are obtaining things perhaps from the same suppliers, yes, but then we are using different partners. And the value web is created, and it is very flexible. It is created to network and synchronize the work with our suppliers, our customers, and our other partners. So it is flexible and adaptive. If today we need to add an insurance company instead of a previous insurance company, it allows us to do it. If we want to use a different trucking company or a different shipping company, then we just reconfigure our value add. So relationships can be bundled or unbundled, depending on the market conditions, depending on the environment, depending on the circumstances. Now, by having a value web, we will accelerate the time to market and to customers. We are going to shorten the delivery times between suppliers and ourselves, and between us and our customers. So we can take decisions quicker, and we can deliver products at the right price and at the right location, and we can improve our relationship with our customers. We talk about synergies and core competencies. Now, look at a corporation is a collection of businesses, a group of companies, a number of different businesses forming a group. Normally, they would be in different industries themselves, right? So they help one another, they support one another. And the firm is a collection of business departments or units. Now, every business or every department will have its own expertise, will have its own skills and knowledge. And there are times where we need to merge those skills and knowledge, where we need to promote synergy. And information systems can help us promote that synergy. They can help us form partnerships among business units to achieve common goals, because they help us share information between the business units. Initially, when we had departments all having their own computer system, they created information silos, where that information was only available to a particular department. Nowadays, we share that information. That is why and how we create synergy, because that information belongs to the organization, not just to one department. And through information systems, it is possible now to share that information. We can also promote core competence. Core competence is knowledge gained over many years. And each company, each department will have its core competence. And those core competencies help us assimilate new trends and external knowledge. Now again, these competencies are scattered throughout our group of companies, throughout our business organization. And through information systems, we can share the knowledge across business units, because that will enhance this core competence. And we do that through things like intranets. We already mentioned something about intranets. Intranets are available to the staff within an organization. A lot of information which is available to everybody. And knowledge management systems. We'll be talking about knowledge management systems in another topic when we talk about enterprise applications. Now, besides the value webs, because of the internet, we see that there are certain strategies that take advantage of networking technologies. And we are going to have a look at 3 network-based strategies. And these are network economics, a virtual company strategy, and a business ecosystem. I'm going to carry on probably for another 8-10 minutes, okay? Because I'd like to finish this off. And unfortunately, we lost quite a lot of time at the beginning. So is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, it's fine for me.
Okay. So network economics. Now, with traditional economics, the more resources we use in production, the less the profit. This is the law of diminishing returns. Right? Obviously, if we are using more resources in production, then we are reducing our profitability. With network economics, if we add another participant, which doesn't cost anything, it can create a much larger profit. We can see this in what we call the value of a community of people. If we have a community of people, if it grows in size, it is going to increase the value of the community. And the cost of adding a new member is either negligible or zero. And through information systems, we can build communities of users, like-minded customers who share their experiences. A good example is the eBay feedback system. You buy something from a supplier and you leave your feedback. Did the supplier rip you off? Did you get a good service from that supplier? Did he describe his products faithfully? Did he charge you too much in postages? Perhaps. So if you're going to buy something from a particular supplier, you look at the feedback system, at the feedback that the supplier has. Do most people give him high marks? Are most people happy with his products, with his service? Or has he bitten off too many people, so shy away from him? Okay, so that is one, right, of that is an example of a network economy, right? We build customer loyalty and enjoyment. So we help other people choose from where they're going to buy. The second way is by having a virtual company strategy. A virtual company is used to link people, assets, and ideas together. It doesn't mean that the company does not exist, right? But it will probably not have its own production capabilities, right? It is just an enabler. It is just a go-between suppliers and buyers. And so it enables it to create an alliance with other companies in order to provide products and services. However, it is not limited by traditional organizational boundaries. There is a video that I'm not going to play now. It is available on Moodle, so I would suggest that you have a look at it. But it is an example of a virtual company. It is called Li and Fung. It is based in Hong Kong. It is a virtual company. It hasn't got its production capabilities. However, it manages the production and shipment of garments for a number of companies. Right? And they have quite a good customer base. Guess, Reebok, there's Tommy Hilfiger. Right? If you have a look at the video, right? It's an interesting video. So it doesn't have any factories or machines. Li and Fung don't own any factories or machines. But they get orders from customers through a private extranet, and they find suppliers for these orders by looking at manufacturing companies that manufacture garments. And sometimes they find these companies that are closing down because they don't have enough work. Because if they get a lucrative order, if they get a huge order, it will enable them to at least carry on operating for a few more weeks, a few more months. So they can give Li and Fung's customers a very good price. And it is very technologically based. Orders are tracked on the extranet. Right? But look at the video, and it's an interesting video. And another type of network strategy is by having a business ecosystem. And some companies participate in collections of industries, and they provide related services and products. A business ecosystem is a group of interdependent network of suppliers and other firms. Normally, it will have what we call a keystone company or a couple of keystone companies, the main players in the ecosystem. It is based on the idea of the value web. However, we get cooperation across several industries rather than just companies. Okay? As I said, it will have one or a few keystone firms that dominate the ecosystem, and they create platforms that are used by the other companies. And we have two examples there. The Microsoft ecosystem, the keystone firms are Microsoft, Intel, IBM, and then they have a number of niche firms, software houses, developers, networking firms, etc. They all rely on Microsoft products. Now, what is the advantage of this for the keystone firms and the niche firms? The keystone firms, they get a good supply of people to test their new products. If Microsoft, for example, they come up with a new operating system or a new programming language, if they need to test it thoroughly, they need to recruit thousands of people. But by using the ecosystem, they can make this product available to software houses and software developers who are part of the ecosystem. And they are doing all the testing for Microsoft. Now, what is in it for them? Because they will be the first people to know about this technology. They will have an advantage over other software houses and other developers, because they are already accustomed to using this product. They have all the training in the product, they have all the experience in this product, so they will have a leading edge over those people who are outside the ecosystem. The second example there is again eBay. It is used by thousands of other businesses. People who sell stuff on eBay may have their own shop, and they piggyback on eBay to have a link to their traditional shop. They don't get everything that they have on sale on eBay. They just post certain products on eBay, certain items on eBay, but then eBay users have the facility to go into their particular websites and see what else they have on sale. Let's see. Oh. Okay, I don't want to rush through this, so I'm going to stop here. All right, so next week we start off with information system strategy. We've made up some time with not having a break and running a bit over. Okay, so hopefully next week I will not have the same problems. I think I learned a strategy next week before I go on Discord. I will just reboot to make sure that I have a clean connection and a clean desktop. Any questions that you need to ask?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, everybody okay?
Not really.
Thanks.
Okay, so apologies for the problems that I had at the start, but that's technology for you.
No
Hopefully, problems next week. So, see you next week. And just as a reminder, just have a look at that video on Moodle. It's not a long video. I could have taken it, but it's interesting. Okay, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, good evening.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Take care.